All right, so Samsung is announcing their Galaxy Book 2. This is a two-in-one Windows 10s hybrid with Gigabit LTE and 20-hour battery life. So this is pretty cool. It's a lot like your laptop that you have, Matt. You have the Surface Pro, right?
I do, yep.
The only thing about this, and I was getting excited reading about it, but the frustrating thing about it is it actually comes with Windows 10s. So
Oh,
that's kind of a boiled down version of Windows that runs on certain chips. This isn't an Intel chip. This is going to run on the Snapdragon 850 chip, which, as you know, is kind of a mobile chip that's geared more towards cell phones. Very powerful chip, but you're just not going to be able to run normal applications. So what does Windows 10s means? It means that you can only download games from the Windows Store.
yep.
Now, there are a lot of programs on the Windows Store. Obviously, Microsoft Office is on the Windows Store, and that's very useful. Their web browser Edge is on there. Basically, it's if you gave this to mom or dad, they'd be happy. But if it's somebody that wants to run virtual reality, if it's somebody that wants to run Steam games, or if it's somebody that just wants to run legacy apps, maybe they've got an accounting app that, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
QuickBooks. I don't know if that's on the Windows 10 store. You're going to have to emulate it. So there is an emulator that you can get. You can actually technically run 32 Windows 32 apps. But emulation is always terrible. It's always slow, and you're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
gaming with that. You're not going to be loading up Fortnite or Tomb Raider or whatever it is that you play. Quake. It's gonna
Yep.
just
Quake.
Quake way too slow. Um, it's gonna start at about $1,000, which I thought was fair
Whoa.
because that's actually the same price as the iPhone 10s. It's very reasonably priced, and the cool thing about it is it has a beautiful screen. So it's a 12-inch. AMOLED screen, and it's fully compatible with the Samsung S Pen stylus, which I know a lot of people like to do when they mark up PDFs. If they're students in a class or if they're artists, a lot of people like to have that pen that's detachable, as well a detachable keyboard and a very small bezel. They also said that the speakers are really great with Dolby Atmos, and it's got really great cameras too. So under the hood, they've got the Snapdragon 850 chip that comes with 4 GB of RAM, and the processor is almost 3 GHz, and there's 4 cores. So I mean, this is kind of a beast, but how frustrating that you can't run real Windows on it.
You know, for $1,000, that's my problem. For $1,000, just go get a Surface Pro. And
Is that how
then
much they cost?
yeah, they even start cheaper than that. So yeah, $1,000, go get a Surface Pro. You're gonna have a real laptop. You're gonna be able to run real applications without having to go to the Windows 10 store. And I gotta tell you, I've played around with Windows 10s, and it's a pretty good operating system, but I would prefer Chrome OS if I had to choose. So I think that was a mistake. I'd love to get a debate going down in the comments, or have listeners angrily defend Windows 10s. I would love
I don't think
to.
you're gonna find it. Who's gonna like that? I
Yeah,
don't want to run anything. I just want to run things on the Windows Store, said nobody ever.
that nobody ever, and it's even a stripped down version of Word, so it's not even the full version of Word that you can put.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's optimized for a tablet, so I noticed that they have a Samsung S Pen stylus, so that's great. It will be able to handle that, but you know what? So can a Surface Pro. So for that kind of money, I always have to compare it to the Surface Pro, and that is such a wonderful device at a great price point, and it just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me.
Now, your Surface Pro, you can use a stylus on it too, right? And it's got
Yeah,
a detachable keyboard, but it actually runs the full-blown Windows 32.
the whole shebang.
Yeah.
I used the pen, but really not that much. I used it more at the beginning just because it was a novelty. Oh, look, I can draw a little, like now you can see my doodles on my notes when I'm in a meeting, right? Like
Perfect.
it is still pretty neat, and I've helped my kids with their homework by being able to draw stuff out, and it's fascinating on, like, especially OneNote on the Surface Pro, because I can handwrite, and I can still search OneNote, and it will search my handwritten notes and pull
Unbelievable.
things up. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. But honestly, it's just faster to take that little tablet with the keyboard into a meeting and type on the keyboard than it is to scribble.
Oh yeah.
Just way faster. But in any case, I wish Samsung luck with this hybrid, but I think they really made a mistake when they went with Windows 10s.
And I don't think you can even have the real Windows with these Qualcomm chips.
No.
They must be really good at battery life because I mean this thing has 20 hours of battery life. I wonder if they threw in an Intel chip if it just would be like 8 hours or 10, you know?
Sure, it would be the same as what you get in the Surface Pros, or in the MacBook Airs for that.
Now,
Um,
how many hours do you get on your Surface Pro?
I get about 8.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's the way it started, was 8, and it all depends on what apps you're running, of course. So if you're doing some heavy gaming, like if you're running Steam, you're not going to get 8. You might get 3 or 4. I've had a few apps really surprise me, like for some reason, Adobe PDFs can suck the battery life really fast. Sometimes even just web browsing, depending on what websites I've got in the background going on, they could drain my battery. So I usually get anywhere between 3 and 8 hours. I'd probably say average 5.
So this is actually a really big advantage if you think about it. I mean, this is like having a cell phone but a computer and it lasts for 20 hours. I mean, you could do
Yeah.
that for a couple days and take it to work, type some notes. If you're not doing games, I mean, it could really be a good thing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're an international traveler and you're going to be stuck on a plane that doesn't have an outlet to charge, or, you're going to be sitting in the back of a cab, who knows? That I think that's really what the sales on this would be. If you need a 20-hour battery, then by all means, this is exactly who should go out and buy it.
And you know, these days, most people just use web browsers anyways. I mean, I even do my taxes on a web browser. I don't
Yeah.
download anything, you know, it's
Yeah, me
pretty.
too.
So, so that's why Chromebooks are becoming so popular, especially in
Yeah.
the classroom. The great thing about stuff like that is there's not a lot of viruses for this stuff because it's new, you know. These
Good point.
operating systems haven't been around for a whole lot of time and it's just harder to break.